Wake up, wake up. It is May the 5th. The draft has come and gone. We're now on Purdy contract watch, getting ready for training camp, OTAs, rookie OTAs, post-draft later this week in Santa Clara. We got a lot to discuss at all times. Let's go.
With a 9 a.m. West Coast start time, Larry, it's probably a little too early to start cracking the Modelo's right now, but happy Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo. Corona sales, Modelo sales go through the roof today. Get your tacos, get your nachos. Always a good day. Good day for the bar scene. Love Cinco de Mayo. Probably not going to do anything because I'm an old man now, and I'm guessing you are too. But look, Larry, it was the slowest weekend, I think, of 49ers news since maybe the season ended, and rightfully so. Like you said, we are past draft. We are pre-Brock's contract getting done. There's some speculation around there. And then rookies report for a rookie mini camp Friday and Saturday, and that's when things really start going again. And next season feels like it gets closer and closer and closer. So good to be with you as always. Everyone, like and subscribe if you would, please, across both channels. It's great to have you here. And if you don't mind me saying, Larry, it's also good that the Warriors picked up a win last night. They kind of needed that one.
It was it. That was it, right? You know, win and move on, lose and go home. And Buddy Hield basically said, you know what? We're not going home. Buddy Hield had an amazing first half. Steve Kerr, you know, his bacon is saved for the moment. But, I mean, I get the feeling that if they had lost that game, there would have been an awful lot of people saying, what the hell, Jonathan Kuminga? And I'm one of them. So, you know, we'll see where the Warriors go from here. I think they're going to be able to beat Minnesota, but you know, they did beat them in the regular season, but that really means zero.
Yeah.
So I like the Warriors' chances in this round. Maybe even a little bit more than I liked them last round, just because I do feel like this Minnesota team, they're not the same challenge. It's interesting. The Warriors on offense against Houston were hugely challenged because the Rockets were so good defensively. Minnesota is not the same kind of animal defensively, but they do put a lot of pressure on you offensively because they can score. And so because they can score points, you feel the need to have to score more times down, and that in and of itself adds pressure. So it's a different series, but I think it's going to be one that Golden State's going to get beyond. I really do.
If you can run Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid off the court, the size of Minnesota shouldn't bother you. So the Warriors are going to have to hit a lot of threes. They're going to have to play faster than Minnesota. They get a shot. I think Minnesota, here's the thing. I wish they hadn't have burned 2 games of energy getting past the Rockets. I would have liked it. The fact that Minnesota's been resting. They got a split in Minnesota. One of the first 2 games, the Warriors have to take one of those first 2 games. I really believe that. Just like they did in Houston. But I'm glad we still got basketball. I sure am, man. I love the NBA playoffs, and I'm glad the Warriors are still a part of it. And I know that everyone's here to hear about the 49ers. Somebody's asking, like, dude, the Warriors win a Game 7 and you're leading with Brock Purdy. Well, this is a Niners show. This is a football show on Monday and Fridays in the offseason, 3 days a week in the regular season. But again, yeah, it was a slow weekend of news around the 49ers, to the point where our biggest thing today to talk about is the Mike Florio speculation of what a Brock Purdy contract will look like here, Larry. He writes that the deal's overall value will come in around $280 million. Florio's estimation has Purdy ending up with a $55.1 million annual average value, just behind Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. He says the guaranteed average at signing will be $46.8 million, which is a far cry from the $55.1 million. And then the final 2 years of the deal, it it grows to 60 million in 2029 and in 2030. If that's the way they go about structuring it, it would really be like a 4-year, $160 million deal. And that's an awful lot of numbers to just have bouncing around in our minds. But, as I've said, the parameters of what the Steelers look like have been written down over and over and over again. How the 49ers just go fitting their numbers and their desires into those numbers is what Parag's job is. But I agree. It's going to be about like a 5-year, $280 million-ish deal with an awful lot of ability to walk away after year 3 or 4, if that's the situation. And if Brock plays great and there's no questioning whether or not he's the guy, he banks huge money. He banks huge money either way. Hopefully they get it. I would like, I'd like to see this done a month ago. You said it hasn't mattered. I don't know. Let's get it done. I'm happy that Kittle's deal is done. I'd love Brock to be there, high-fiving all the rookies when they walk in with a new contract on Friday. But we'll see what happens this week.
To me, the most interesting number in this deal, because it's not my money, is the term. How long of a deal is it? Because there's a lot of speculation that, that even though Jed says he loves everybody down there, that, they won 6 games this year. And you saw the way he reacted. He totally stripped the budget. They didn't spend any money at all in free agency. Then they did their drafting. And when it was time to spend money in the undrafted market, they sat it out. They spent like $90,000. There was teams that spent over $500,000. So why? You're going to go cheapo on the undrafted free agent market to save $500,000, maybe? That was so stupid and so short-sighted and so illogical. It's such an obvious fertile market, and you have such obvious needs, and you didn't participate to save what is in the grand scheme of thing, pennies. So I've lost total confidence in the 49ers as far as what they're spending at this point. And I don't think it makes any sense at all. It makes no sense at all. You're going to tell the public in literally 4 days from now that through the media that nothing's changed and that you're in it to win it. And, 2025 is just another year in the calendar and you're trying to win the Super Bowl and nothing's really changed. But then everything about what you did to prepare to play this season has changed. You were huge players in the free agent market in the past. You weren't this year. You were huge players in the undrafted market. You sat it out this year. So they're in a spot where they went El Cheapo, and we'll see if it burns them. As far as the Purdy contract, I think there's still, we'll see, but I think there's a very good likelihood that it's not a 5-year deal, that it's actually a 3-year deal, and that it will give Jed and the ownership group total freedom to hit the complete and total reset on the entire organization.
Well, I think it's going to be
3 years from now.
A 3-year deal masked as a 5-year deal.
I'm just saying I would be surprised if this deal extends beyond 3 years in commitments. There may be options, but as far as commitments, I'd be shocked, because I think that they want to maintain that if they, this is year 9 of this regime. If they won 6 games last year, if they win 5 again this year, then they could be out in a year. So, I don't think that, and it's interesting too. It's like, so you want, I do believe that if they don't win, and win impressively on some level, that Jed eventually is going to pull the plug. But to me, it would really be unsightly if he cut the budget, made them spend nothing, and then was like, "Yeah, you guys aren't very good. Now you're out."
Right, like setting them up to fail almost.
Right. If somebody doesn't allow you to spend in 2 of the 3 areas where you can improve the roster, and then is going to hold your feet to the fire on the record the next year, that's dirty. That's dirty.
But let's hash it out to the other direction. Let's say they have, against their last place schedule, 11 wins. They've won the NFC West, and they've done it with all this budget tightening. Are we going to turn around and say, great decisions? We believed in it all along. I mean,
but you're not winning. You're not going to win because of the budget tightening. I mean, you might win while you're budget tightening. It doesn't mean you're winning because you're tightening the budget.
Right. But either way, and the results are the only thing that matters business, that is football. If they have a good year with this, I don't think it's going to be a new look. I'm willing to benefit of the doubt this for a one-off season type of reset. Now, looking to do a reset in the middle of what's supposed to be a title run. And I think we can all say, but the window of the Super Bowl window, it's if they get to another Super Bowl, because they will have reopened a window. Like, I think it's done, right? Whatever success happens from here on out, it's like 2.0 level success, right? Like the Shanahan's first 2 Super Bowl appearances were 1.0 Shanahan. This is 2.0. This is like a new direction, right?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily agree. I mean, you've the two guys that usually define a direction for an NFL team are the head coach and the quarterback, and they're the exact same head coach and quarterback you just had. So I don't really think I wouldn't say anything's changed as far as, they still want to win. I mean, they still want to win, but they pared it back as far as, what they could spend, because they were obviously going to have to pay the quarterback. So you had to do that. So and we all knew this was coming. We talked about it. There's been endless articles written about it. Heck, anytime you're going to go pay your quarterback from $900,000 to X, whatever, 45 million, 55 million, 65 million, 85 million. It's all massive upcharges compared to the 900,000 you were spending on them before. So you were going to need a new plan, and that was going to be a belt tightening for sure. So it's not a real surprise. As far as what they did to tighten the belt, I don't really have a problem with any of it except for the Greenlaw thing. And now watching Greenlaw continue to break down in Denver, obviously I'm even a little bit less boisterous in my damn it, they should have kept Greenlaw, because he's falling apart. And I kind of knew it was a guilty pleasure at the time, right? I'm like, I want Greenlaw back. I don't think it really makes sense, but I want him back because I want him back. And I think the Niners kind of felt the same way. So
they did. I mean, look at how they reapproached him in the 11th hour, right? All that all the reporting that they tried to convince, don't go, Dre, don't go, don't take the train out of town. So
that was damage control, though.
I think they had buyer's remorse on the decision to let him go. And you can say maybe it was damage control. The best damage control over the issue is the sad reoccurring injury to Dre Greenlaw. So, I'm not going to hold their feet to the fire there either. But yeah, it's weird that while, we have every single article that can be attached to how the business of the NFL is doing, just, equals booming business, why it is a belt tightening time now for the Yorks. Again, didn't they put out a press release saying that they were going to spend like there is no tomorrow for their soccer team, their Leeds team? There was a rumor that the Yorks might be contacted about possible ownership interest in the Tampa Bay Rays. So I'm wondering if they were looking to just stockpile their own personal money to do things that aren't Niners related, which if you were a Niner fan would drive you batty.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to come to grips with their soccer investments and how it all relates. I just don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. As far as this goes, the Niners I think they made the right move. I mean, to be completely honest. Why? Because, they were going further and further and further down this road of, let's just try to put it all out there for this year. And they probably needed to hedge a little bit and get a little younger, get a little healthier. But I don't think it's, they're still in the midst of this run because Purdy's probably better this year than he was last year. You know what I mean? It's like he's actually getting better, and he's your quarterback. So, we'll see what the way this all shakes out and the way it all looks when it's, when the season rolls around. But I do think that the Purdy deal is going to get done, and I'll hold to what I said to you, a couple months ago, which was I think the real deadline is phase 3 of OTAs, because I just don't really believe that Brock Purdy is going to sit out field work and allow Mac Jones to kind of lead the team. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that is what my guess is there was plenty of time months ago to map this whole thing out. If you said, what's your best guess? My best guess is Brock said to his agent, get me in there by OTAs. Get me in there when this team hits the field. He already showed up for phase 1 of the OTAs, even though there's no field work.
I think that Brock is such a good soldier, even if they didn't have the contract done by then. And I don't want them to. I'm trying to speak this into existence. I bet he shows up and just say, hey, everybody, you take this non-contact jersey the most seriously you have ever taken a non-contact jersey in practice. Nobody breathe on me, but I'm going to come out here and I'm still going to throw footballs around and run plays. I think he's that much of a good soldier. I think he's that much of a good. Now his agent should just say no.
Well, he better beyond saying no. He better get insurance. I mean, he better take some insurance out.
Yeah.
On Brock if he's going to put him out there. But I just think they're probably close enough where Brock's just going to say, hey, look, let's I'm going to be there for OTAs. I will stand corrected, and I will admit I was wrong if we get to OTAs and they're out there in uniform and Brock's not there. But
shame on all of them. Shame on every single one of them if they have created that situation. By the way, talking about the eras 1.0, 2.0, maybe this is the best way to put it. JP from the 510, the boombox Super Bowl window is closed. The next window will be different. Yeah, I think the boombox era might be done. That's it. Bye, Debo. Bye, boombox.
I mean, you still got Trent there, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how they replace Debo, and that's a big part of this year as well. How are the Niners going to replace their offensive weapons? How are the Niners going to score points this year?
Look, if they wanted to hold it against Brock in terms of we only had a 6-win season last year, then, what in God's name did you go out and make 5 straight defensive draft picks for if that was the problem? I really think that Shanahan is looking at his offense right now as is and thinking, I can get you 24 points out of that. And that's the goal. I just think the whole year is going to be race to 24 points. And this 49ers rebuilt defense, you do your job, make sure the other team isn't in that neighborhood. And that's how we're winning a lot of games against a lot of bad football teams this year, a lot of last place teams. That's the magic number. 24 points of offense and defense stop the run. That's how the 49ers are going to get through this season. I really think so.
I just think they wanted to help their offense. They just, they had, more pressing needs on defense, and they're always, they like their offensive line for whatever reason. They think their offensive line's good.
Hey, you pick sodium pentothal and you and me, Larry. We'll both tell you that the Niners offensive line was hardly this image of perfection last year, but in comparison to the 49ers defensive line, it was a straight A student. The 49ers defensive line was wearing the dunce cap on the line of scrimmage, not the offensive line. Offensive line wasn't perfect, but the defensive line was so bad week in, week out against the run that's where the entire season went up in smoke. So I think, with Saleh back in the room, with these draft picks that I'm liking more and more the way I think they're going to play together, and I think they're going to have a good year. I'm not ready to say they're going to be one of the best teams in all of football, but I think the 49ers will have to have something go terribly wrong for them to have a bad football season. I just don't see another 6-win year on the horizon. And if there is, My God. I mean, the heat will be on Shanahan and John Lynch like never before. I'll tell you, had Steve Kerr lost game 7, had the Warriors lost game 7, the series in which they struggled, where he benched his third leading scorer in the regular season, in the postseason, Steve would have had an awful lot to answer for. You could feel everyone sharpening their knives coming after Steve Kerr this morning. And the Warriors saved their head coach's PR bacon by getting the win. And as much as the hand-wringing would have been for real about Steve Kerr, he would have survived any and all hand-wringing because he's got pelts on the wall. He's won. Shanahan has no pelts on the wall. He's got nothing to point at and say, well, I can get it done the entire way through. So I think if this year were to go completely off the rails, Kyle would be in an awful lot of trouble. And John Lynch, I think, wouldn't be very far behind. I mean, let me just ask you this. Let's say everything goes wrong. It's a horrific year for many reasons. Do you think that Shanahan or Lynch would be saved one over the other? Or do you think they're a total package deal? Like Shanahan is gone, John Lynch remains, or vice versa. Do you think they're totally linked together? Yes or no?
They say they are. So they say they're linked together. So yeah, they're linked together. It really depends, but I would say they're linked together. I mean, you could say Lynch is the guy who makes the picks, but how many of those picks were, picks that Shanahan demanded? I mean, the Niners made an awful lot of bad offensive picks in the early part of this regime. If all those were Kyle Shanahan picks, then how could you possibly get rid of Lynch and keep Shanahan? But, it really kind of depends too. It depends on how this thing goes. If there's coaching issues, then maybe Shanahan goes. And I could see Lynch remaining as the face of the franchise. Or if it really is the personnel is slid, maybe Shanahan stays, but they get a general manager who's now the central figure in the organization. And I don't know if Shanahan would even stay for that. My guess is he probably wouldn't. So, yeah, I would say they're probably tied together, especially if they want to be.
The one personnel decision that was made this weekend, the one actual bit of news, not real speculation, but this is news, this happened. Welcome back, Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley returns on a 1-year deal. The blocking tight end spent his first 6 seasons with the 49ers, spent last season with the Falcons. So he's back with George Kittle. And we were talking on Friday, Larry, how they needed probably another hand to help them through their situation. But again, what's the difference between Ross Dwelley and Luke Farrell? Why add Luke Farrell if you're coming back to Ross Dwelley? Why bring in Luke Farrell for that price point? Bring back Kyle Juszczyk and Ross Dwelley.
Because they're totally different players. I mean, one guy's a receiver, the other guy's a blocker. Luke Farrell is a blocker, and he's going to be Charlie Warner. Ross Dwelley, now you could debate the wisdom in bringing him back, but he's not a blocker. He's a deficient blocker. He's a receiver. That's what he was at University of San Diego, and that's what he's always been. And he's a really good special teamer. I'm sure it probably has something to do with special teams and, their endless, desire to upgrade on special teams.
Larry, he had one catch last year for the Atlanta Falcons. 17 games,
he's a receiver.
1 catch, 5 yards.
He's a receiver. That's what he is. He's a receiver. He's not a blocker. I mean, you asked the question, I'm giving you the answer. Luke Farrell is a blocker and not much of a receiver. Dwelley is a receiver and a special teamer, not much of a blocker. He's not I'm not saying that, he went to Atlanta. They have Kyle Pitts. They have Charlie Warner. I mean, he's never going to be anybody's starting tight end. He's a backup tight end, practice squad, special teamer, back of the roster type of a player. I think they may like him because I think he may be an efficient special team player who doesn't make mistakes.
He knows the system.
But I mean, to me, that's not what they needed. They needed another tight end because they have Pline and Braden Willis and Jake Tongas, and they're all underpowered receiving base tight ends. So I was kind of hoping they'd go after another tight end, but I was thinking more along the lines of like a Gerald Everett, somebody closer to 250 pounds who could actually do a little bit of both block and catch. But obviously they don't feel the need. They see, I mean, Kittle's going to be there and Farrell's going to be there. So those two guys are going to be 1 and 2. So I think they just wanted to add another competition competitor to their competition for receiving tight end. But I don't get it. I don't see it. I'd rather go with Pline. I mean, I'd like to know that either Pline's had some kind of setback with an injury, or I don't get this, because you need a fourth receiving only tight end. I don't know.
But Larry, look, I know you want to call him a receiving tight end. Since 2000, in 2001,
he
had 4 catches in 2001. And
he's a backup, Damon.
Right, but I mean,
that's what he is. I mean, that's like, if you said to me, like, what is Ross Dwelley? He's underpowered. He's not a strong inline blocker. If anything,
Warner.
He's more of a wide receiver than he is an offensive tackle. Well, there's tight ends, and then there's wide receiver tight ends, and then there's offensive tackle tight ends. He's a wide receiver tight end. He's a guy who you would never ask to block except nominally. And he's a guy that's, that big defensive ends like Mikael Williams just absolutely trash, just totally destroy. But for whatever reason, either maybe Willis is hurt, maybe Tongas is hurt, maybe Pline's not coming around, or maybe the new special teams coordinator, Brant Boyer, really is looking at what Dwelley can contribute on special teams and saying, hey, you know what? Let's bring this guy in since we can get him for probably nothing. And they probably signed him for nothing. And, he wanted to be here. And so, I mean, I it's not a terrible move because it's not a significant move, but I don't see it being, that's not the tight end that they needed to add. And to me, it's just another underpowered receiving tight end that's going to be a special teamer. So we'll see.
Speaking of catches and receptions, who goes about doing that for the 49ers this year? So it's open to debate. Looking at free agents still on the board. And I know you came up with an article in the USA Today where it talked about some availability, positions of need that the 49ers might want to look at here on the free agent market. The best free agent wide receiver on the board might not be a fit for the Niners in terms of, we're going to really stretch the field and is more than just a possession guy. But Amari Cooper is out there. And look, he had a bad start to his year last year in Cleveland. He didn't have a very good end to his year when he got paired with, the playoff-bound Buffalo Bills and an MVP-level Josh Allen. He had 547 yards and 4 touchdowns on 44 catches over 14 games last season. And it doesn't sound like much, but before you sniff at that would be 4th best on the 49ers last season in catches, 4th best in yards, and 3rd in touchdowns. So, what isn't a great year for Amari Cooper would have been a pretty serviceable year for the 49ers last year in terms of wide receiver production. If the price were super right on Amari Cooper, I mean, I would absolutely be interested in Amari Cooper because that he can do stuff that Shanahan's going to ask him to do. And I know right now that Shanahan's already figuring out a way to not play his rookie wide receivers. He just doesn't like going to the rooks. So I think they need some other wide receiver who's got NFL experience that Shanahan will trust before he distrusts him. Amari Cooper ain't perfect. You're not going to find perfect at this point in time. Is there another name out there you might like to see this team approach in wide receiver free agency, Larry?
Well, I mean, I don't know that okay, so what do they have right now? You've got Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings. You signed DeMarcus Robinson. You drafted Jordan Watkins in the 4th round. So, and you still have Jacob Cowing. You also drafted this guy, Junior Bergen, in the 7th round, who you have high hopes that he's going to be your return guy. You also signed the veteran Isaiah Hodgins. You also signed an undrafted free agent, Isaiah Nayer, who's very intriguing. So I don't think wide receiver would be on their list. I really don't. I mean, I was suggesting the other day, because there was an article out. I think PFF had an article. The draft, shifts the whole landscape of the league. And the way that the nature of the draft is that you wind up getting guys that you didn't think you were going to get. You wind up not filling needs that you were hoping to fill. And so there's kind of a shakeout after the draft. And there was a list of guys around the league who potentially could be traded after the draft, because it was a Pro Football Network article. NFL and trade candidates, cut and trade candidates after the draft based on what happened in the draft. And there were some interesting names on this list. A couple that, let me see here, on the names that kind of caught my eye. I mean, there's Kirk Cousins. They're saying the Ravens may trade Odafe Owe, the edge rusher. We'll see about some of you. Carolina, they say, may move Jadeveon Clowney. Your Bears may move Cole Kmet, they're saying, because of the guys that they added at receiver and tight end. Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker for the Bengals. But if you go far enough down the list, there's some really interesting names. Cleveland, they say, may move David Njoku, who's a very talented tight end. Dallas may move Deron Bland, who's a corner who's gotten a lot of interceptions. The name, though, that caught my eye was Romeo Doubs, because it says that Gutekunst, just drafted Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. That's the first time the Packers have taken a receiver that high. They also have Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavion Wicks. They got a bunch of guys, and they're saying that there's a very good chance that they may wind up moving on from Romeo Doubs. Now, I think that makes a lot more sense.
So Doubs was suspended last year, one game for conduct detrimental to the team. He missed a couple of practices. He no-showed on a few meetings. So he might have certainly played their way off the trusted agent draft board of the Green Bay Packers. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Green Bay would be in a rush to send him to the Niners. Why would they? But at the end of the day, you never know. You never know what the Niners have. Or if the Niners, here's the other one. We don't know how the Niners look at Jacob Cowing, for example. These are both young receivers. I could see the Niners saying, hey, you know what? We have our speedy guy. It's Jordan Watkins, and we'll move Jacob Cowing in a deal. And who knows? Maybe a deal like that could happen. But like that's a receiver I'd have more interested in, because I think Amari Cooper got old this year. I think Amari Cooper looked really old.
He did.
He looked bad. He looked bad in Buffalo, and there was no explanation because he was totally healthy. So I would say the Niners. First of all, I would say I don't think the Niners are going to add a receiver, period, because I think they do have a bunch of guys that they kind of want to take a look at. But if they did, I think it would be more for a younger receiver who's cheaper than a veteran like Cooper, who may want some money. But I mean, that being said, Niners Nation, or Niners Wire, I should say, Josh Helmer from Niners Wire wrote an article that appeared in the USA today. 5 players the Niners could add via trade to bolster some weak areas of their roster. Here are the 5 names they're throwing out. Jadeveon Clowney, who is 32, and he's entering a contract year. He's carrying a $13.7 million cap hit. The Niners drafted Mikael Williams, but they're still, Clowney has 58 career sacks. AJ Espinosa from Buffalo, who's 26. You say, why would Buffalo get rid of a 26-year-old pass rusher? They just drafted Landon Jackson. They signed Joey Bosa. They're kind of deep there. There's Liam Eichenberg, an offensive lineman from Miami. Jamel Dean, a corner from Tampa Bay, one of the higher graded corners according to PFF. But Tampa just drafted Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. So they're saying Jamel Dean could be traded. Deron Bland is another name they threw out as well. I don't know if any of those names actually fit the Niners, but it is interesting that they're saying they're interested in a corner, an offensive lineman, or a defensive end And I think that's probably a good guess. That's probably a good guess as far as what the Niners would add. Probably if they could, like Von Miller's still a free agent. I would be very interested in seeing what his price tag would be, just because he is Von Miller.
I mean, so let me ask you this: you get a choice. You got to sign one of the two, Von Miller or Jadeveon Clowney. Who would you rather be the example of how we want you to play opposite of Nick Bosa for Mikael Williams?
Well, I mean, I would look at it this way. It's like you have Mikael Williams. Who could you use in conjunction with Mikael Williams? Best, I would say it's probably Clowney, just because Clowney has always been a guy who doesn't really have edge rusher traits. He's more of just an awesome athlete who you can put anywhere in the formation. So like we've seen him rush over the A gap. We've seen him rush, over left end, right end. I mean, he can be moved around. So I think, and he's also big enough where Von Miller's a little bit lighter. I think Von Miller's an edge and only an edge, where it's pretty obvious that with Collins and with Mikael Williams, the Niners like the multi-positional ability. So, because they like to play a lot of games up front. And if you added a guy like Clowney, he would help in that regard, because you could seriously line him up at tackle on some downs and line Mikael Williams up at end and, stunt him if you wanted to.
Jadeveon Clowney's always been a little bit better of an idea than he has been an actual player, right? I mean, he's good.
Yeah. I mean, he's been good against the Niners.
Great. Yeah, he has been good against the Niners, but
he's had some. Remember that game against, was it Joe Staley, that he got in there for like 4 or 5 sacks. So, I mean, they could definitely, to me, the Niners could definitely use either an offensive tackle of note, a young offensive tackle. Obviously,
they need a backup. They need a swing. They
signed DJ Humphries, so that's going to be their swing guy in their mind. But I mean, they could definitely use another offensive lineman. They could definitely use another edge rusher, just because everybody needs them. They could definitely use another corner. If you could sign an Asante Samuel Jr., I think you ought to do it. Jamel Dean, anything like that. A corner, a D end, an offensive lineman, and maybe a tight end, like a tight end that could actually block and catch, as opposed to, just block like Farrell, or just catch like most of their guys except for Kittle.
I've got one other name to bring up, and I know you like the guy. The player is still very much an unknown, and if you're an unknown at this point in time in your career, that ain't good. The forgotten man is Drake Jackson on this defensive line. One last shot, or is he completely fading away here? He missed all of last year with surgery to tear on his torn patella tendon, which he hurt back in 2003. And, he's got 6 career sacks, but 3 of them came in that one game against Pittsburgh, and then we didn't see him again that year. Do you think that Drake Jackson is on this team week 1?
I hope so, but I don't think so. I mean, if I had to, he missed the entirety of the 24 season due to surgery on the patella tendon injury that ended his 23 season prematurely. Now, obviously, the Niners just used their number 1 pick on his replacement. I mean, let's be honest. If Drake Jackson were awesome, Niners probably don't draft Mikael Williams. But
no, but they need they need bodies. They need bodies at the position. Like,
they do. But I mean,
about who their DNs are when one's already on the team at a good price.
My point is just, if Drake Jackson, who was their highest pick a couple of years ago, was just awesome, they probably would have had another need that took precedent. But instead, they can always use more defensive ends. So it's like Drake Jackson. It's not like the ship has sailed. If Drake Jackson gets his knee healthy, gets in camp, has a good preseason, he'll make the team. Yes, there's Yatir Gross-Matos. Yes, there's Sam Aquinu. Yes, there's Robert Beal. But if Drake Jackson gets healthy and plays at the level that he can play at, I believe, I think he could potentially make the team. Now, the Niners usually carry 10 defensive linemen, 5 defensive tackles, 5 defensive ends. So you've got Bosa and Mikael Williams and Sam Aquinu for sure. So that means that everybody else, and that would be Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Alex Barrett, Jonathan Garvin, Teron Jackson, they're going to battle it out for like 2 spots. And I'll tell you right now, Damon, one of those spots is going to Teron Jackson. Teron Jackson is a really good player. That was a great signing at the end of last year. I fully expect Teron Jackson to go to camp and outplay Barrett, Garvin, Beal for that spot. So I think Teron Jackson gets one of the spots. Beal probably gets the other spot, to be honest. But I also think they'll look around, right? They'll look around at anybody in their camp that shows, and they'll look around at anybody in anybody else's camp that they like as well. And
I mean, I wonder if Drake Jackson isn't considered such damaged goods if they couldn't, do you think he could survive a practice squad?
Well, he's kind of aging out at this point. I mean,
I don't know if there'd be any interest in Drake Jackson, but I don't know if the Niners are quite ready to give up on him. Not yet.
Well, they took him 61st overall, right, but that was in 2022.
Right.
He was the first, and you don't get forever. You don't get forever. So I shook hands with Drake last year at the end of the year. I saw him in week 18 up in the press box. And, we talked for a minute, and I just said, hey, man, obviously it's the biggest off season of your career. And he's like, yeah, man, I just got to get my knee right and get to camp. So I think he's still in that mindset. I haven't gotten an update, but it seems most of the people seem to be suggesting that he's not going to be able to make this comeback. We'll see. I have hope because I really do think the kid's got talent, and I'm a big fan of his personally. But I would say it's Bosa, Mikael Williams, Sam Aquinu, Teron Jackson, and probably Robert Beal.
Beal or Garvin.
Probably Beal, but you never know. Maybe neither. Right? Because they may find somebody who gets cut. They may find who knows? I mean, Damon, I don't even know who they're going to invite to camp yet. We don't know what their camp roster is going to look like. Teams have a tendency because, as you know, I mean, everybody wants to go to camp with the best 90 guys possible. So between now and camp, they're going to be making those decisions. Who are the best 90 guys? And one of those will be on the other defensive ends they want to bring in. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see. And then in addition to whatever they bring in, they got the entire league to look at. I'm sure they will. And I would say get ready for exactly what I described. Maybe them to have 4 defensive ends they like, and maybe one that they're not crazy about. And I think they could shop around for that 5th guy.
What a season Chris Krueger needs to have. Chris Krueger, 49ers defensive line coach, probably has as much on his plate at the dawn of a 49ers season than in any year that he's been this team's defensive line coach. He's got an awful lot of young talent up front to work with, talent that everyone admits has an awful lot of upside, an awful lot of potential, but on the day it shows up is going to be raw. So huge coaching job this year in front of Chris Krueger, and hopefully Robert Saleh being back in the room is just going to make it all fit together better than before. Let's see, Larry, I pretty much, again, after a slow news weekend about the Niners, have emptied my bag of things that I thought we needed to talk about today. Have you got anything else?
Otherwise, I would just say that I'm getting kind of excited about some of the undrafted players that the 49ers have signed. I really think even though I think they should have done a whole lot more in the undrafted market, and it bugs me to no end that they didn't. This is a team that, that unearthed Jordan Mason, that unearthed Azeez Al-Shaair, that unearthed Emmanuel Mosley, that unearthed Kevin Givens. So they got a pretty good eye for this, and they added a couple guys that I really do like quite a bit in Isaiah Nayer, the 6'4", 220-pound receiver. I can't wait to see this kid this summer. He's 6'4", 220. He runs 4.4 flat. He's got 35-inch arms and a 38-inch vertical. In 5 years in college at Wyoming, Texas, and Nebraska, he only caught 87 passes. So he's still very much a project because of the injuries he's had.
Megatron. He's the size of Megatron. He's huge.
He's huge, fast, long arms, and a major vertical. So, I mean, this guy's catch radius could be off the charts. And he is an absolutely impressive athlete. So, and then you're talking about maybe the Niners' biggest receiver, but he also might be the Niners' fastest receiver. So that is intriguing. I'm really intrigued to see Isaiah Nair. The other guy I'm really intrigued to see is a couple of these offensive linemen, but Drew Moss, from Colorado State. Some of the numbers, Damon, on Drew Moss were really, really good. Though between Drew Moss and Connor Colby, the Niners had two offensive linemen, and I think probably will have a good chance to start. They won't both start, but I think they'll have a good chance to compete for that left guard starting spot. And I'm eager to see what either of them have, because I kind of think Colby, I know there are people, it's funny because everybody watches things and sees something different. I watched his film and saw a very polished guard who had made a lot of starts, who looked like he had made a lot of starts, and knows how to wall off, knows how to position his body, knows how to, he looked very veteran-like for a college guard. But this guy's made 50 starts in a really good program.
Yeah, and he did
they've run the hell out of the ball.
Yeah, he did a lot of blocking for a team that has no razzle dazzle to it. I mean, Iowa is straight ahead like bully ball football. And this guy spent an awful lot of time blocking a whole bunch of defensive linemen who went in the first round. And he did it pretty damn well. So, yeah, I'm excited about him too. I mean, what was your bold statement on Friday was you think he starts week one.
I do.
You might have talked me into it. You might have talked
and I'm not sure if it will be Connor Colby or Drew Moss, but I think one of those guys potentially could start at guard, because all you got to do is beat out Ben Barch and Spencer Burford, and those guys have struggled to,
by the way,
get things going.
I really thought Spencer Burford was going to turn into more than he's turned into, and he's got such. I did this video last offseason about the opportunity he has with the great offseason to come in and get some real playing time. If Burford lets a 7th round rookie or Ben Barch start in front of him, dude, that's not good. This is officially not good.
I mean, it's time to, if you, Chris Forster is the guy, you got to impress Chris. I mean, that's bottom line. I mean, Jake Brendel has done it, I mean, I don't know how, but he's done it. So
how?
So yeah, I mean, you're going to have to impress Chris Forster as long as he impresses Chris Forster. The other couple guys though, the Niners signed a corner named Jacob Robinson, who was not invited to the combine, played at BYU, 181-pound corner, but the guy runs in the 4.3s, and he had 11 interceptions in college. He was the captain of the team. He's just another guy that, those are good traits, 4.3 speed and 11 interceptions. BYU's a well-coached football team, so I'm eager to see him. And then I'm also eager to see Corey Kiner. Corey Kiner's got a great spin move. And Corey Kiner, I think, is a pretty decent running back. History tells us that Corey Kiner may outperform Jerome or Jordan James, and we'll see. We'll see about that. But I think the Niners definitely landed. It wasn't a huge free undrafted class, but I think there's some intriguing names there.
Got a guy here named Viral Rivers. Says, geez, you guys are obsessed and bringing in middle-aged, mediocre veterans. Look, that's what's pretty much left at this point in time in the free agent class. So we're talking about options that the 49ers could go to. No one's obsessed with it, but you got to, you got to.
This is where we're at. It's May 5th.
Right. You got to pick the flowers in the garden you're walking through. All the gorgeous flowers were picked in something called the NFL draft. And all the other veteran flowers that you might have been interested in, they went in free agency. So now you're walking through a field of weeds and you're looking to pick, the right. This fits. He's not perfect. They're shopping in the odd lots bin. Like you go rummaging through that odd lots bin, you're going to find an awful lot of irregular t-shirts and things that don't fit and things that aren't fashionable anymore. But you dig down way, way, way down and you're like, oh man, look at this. It's an old Detroit Pistons bad boy t-shirt. You know what? I'm going home with it. I like the way I'm taking it. I
mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, it's a gigantic TJ Maxx and everybody's looking for one guy. I mean, the bottom line too is that, sometimes you can find guys late in the equation that help your situation. I believe the Niners signed Carlos Rogers that 1 year right before camp, and he wound up being a major player for them. It can happen. I mean, this is also that, there's really three things going on here. You have the leftover free agents, as Damon aptly described. It's not a burgeoning market of stars. It's a lot of flawed players. But then you also have some guys who are suddenly available because their team didn't expect to draft 3 linebackers. But guess what? They played their board according to value. They went best player available. And now they've got, 2 extra linebackers. So
it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game, and you're just trying to figure out who's got depth where you need a player, where do you have depth that somebody else needs a player. There can be some moves, but I understand what you're saying, that there's not a lot left over, and that a lot of these guys probably won't make a huge difference, but you never know.
Right. I think that once training camp begins, John Lynch every single day is going to be looking at cuts. And again, situations dictate careers. And the Niners are going to look at their situation as being one that can revive a career that maybe has petered out somewhere else. So let's see. There's still an awful lot of time before week 1 football is being played. That's for sure. Shall we hop into some supers, Larry?
Yeah, we got a few here. Fuji Simeon says that was a ruckus Warriors post-game show, Larry. Oh, I know. God, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
What happened?
Cyrus. Cyrus happened.
Cyrus was angry at Steve Kerr for winning a series.
Well, I mean, Cyrus has decided that Kerr sucks, and he's got all the answers. We had Carl Foster on. Carl, who's connected to some agents, basically Cy was banging on the Warriors for not getting Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards went in front of James Wiseman, and Cy's contention was that, but they could have easily traded up for Anthony Edwards, and Carl's contention was that his sources told them that they had no shot at Anthony Edwards. Carl made a mistake, I think, in that you never bring anything up in a public forum if you don't plan on talking about it. You know what I mean? You can't bring up a topic and be like, well, no,
I know something that you don't, but I can't talk about it.
Right. Yeah. That's that. As soon as you can't, and then Cy, gets a little crazy. I mean, let's be honest. He gets a little over his skis. It just got a little contentious, and, eventually it was like, Cy swearing and, like everything else.
All right. Go to your neutral corners. Take a 10.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
count.
Ruckus is a good way to describe it.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed it. So I got good news. Jillian is finally back from her international business trips. So maybe I can even hop on and join the post-game show celebration, since I'm not going to be on double dad duty for another week in a row here.
Well, there you go. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We'll be doing it. Ben Diesel in the house says paying Purdy north of $50 million a year is too much. A Super Bowl win over Kansas City 2 seasons ago would justify $55 million, but that didn't happen. I mean, it's like, okay, it's
Okay,
like,
your opinions don't set the market. The market sets
yeah,
the
I mean,
market. And
it's
Brock
like
Purdy is
that. You sound that's. I mean, Ben. I mean,
right.
that sounds very petulant, childlike. If he had won the Super Bowl, first of all, it's a team game. Okay. So now we're putting this all on Brock Purdy. I thought Brock Purdy played pretty well in that Super Bowl.
I do know this. The last time Brock Purdy's cleats were on the field of the Super Bowl, he walked off of it with a lead.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if he had a good defense, if he had a defense that got a single fucking stop, then now he is Super Bowl champion, and now he's worth more because his defense was better. I mean, it just, make it make sense. I mean, and paying Purdy north of $50 million a year is there's a word for that. It's market rate. It's market rate. So, I understand there's a lot of people that have taken a lot of content creation time and devoted it, parked their car on the corner of don't pay Purdy. But you know what? He's going to get paid.
Look at it this way.
The
quarterback you replace Brock Purdy with, even if he doesn't have Brock Purdy's success, by the time he's out of his rookie contract, if he's a bona fide NFL starting quarterback, is going to be a $50 million a year conversation. Anyway, the $50 million a year quarterback is about to be the way that you describe the majority of NFL starting quarterbacks. There will be more $50 million a year quarterbacks in this league than there will be $35 million a year quarterbacks in this league 2 years from now.
We're a little too bottom line oriented. It's like, well, he's not this. Well, so what? So now Jalen Hurts is everything because the Eagles beat the Eagles were better than the Chiefs. Was Hurts better than Mahomes? No, but he's got a Super Bowl win over him. So, if we're in this bottom line business, and I guess in the bottom line, Hurts is better than Mahomes. Well, but he's not. So it's like, we can play this game and do this endless comparison. If the 49ers had gotten one more defensive stop, Brock Purdy's a Super Bowl champion, but he's not,
Right.
So it's like, either way, he's up for a contract and they're going to pay him $50 million.
Buries Mahomes on fourth and whatever that was. Everyone's getting fitted for a ring.
And Brock Purdy's now worth anything. Oh, pay him whatever.
60.
He won it all.
I got a 60.
Yeah. I mean, it's like too much according to who? And why do you even care? Why do you even care? I mean, seriously. And don't tell me it's because, well, you'll have more money to spend on the rest of your roster. Yeah, but if you don't have them, then you don't have a quarterback. Then if you don't have a quarterback, it almost doesn't matter who's on the roster. MSQ says Cy was crashing out yesterday. LOL. Thoughts, Damon?
Again, I'm sorry that I missed the show. I was spending the night on the couch with my wife, who had just returned from a trip to India. She's like, that was something else. She does not want to get back to India anytime soon. Yeah, I missed it. But look, I've done enough shows with Cyrus to understand he gets very, very anxious about Steve Kerr. And he tries to dissect Steve Kerr wins as if they were losses, because in his mind that they are. But again, here's the thing. You can be frustrated about Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr absolutely exposed himself to all the Jonathan Kuminga criticism in the world. You cannot bench your third leading scorer, go through a series needing scoring, be dedicated to not playing the guy, and then lose that series. That would have been horrible for Steve's reputation. He's lucky that Buddy Hield bailed him out of the single roughest Monday of his career.
Yeah. That was my take as well, that, Steve, shame on Steve for not playing Kuminga. And if it's not, and it's like, there's no counter as far as I'm concerned, because if you didn't want to play him, that's fine. You should have told Dunleavy that in February when he could have gotten something for him. And then you could have gotten whatever for Jonathan Kuminga. But to not move Kuminga and then to not use Kuminga, and you're,
Right. You must get something out of the asset, either minutes or trade capital.
Yeah, you can't just get zero. Or, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, you sat there next to Dunleavy from October and all of November, all of December, all of January. I mean, you literally had months and months and months of meaningless basketball time, NBA early season time to practice any rotation you want, to put together any grouping of players you want, and to sit there and get to the deadline and not trade Jonathan Kuminga, but still have Kerr in this mode of like, well, I may not play him at all. You know, it's like, that's where if I'm Dunleavy, I'm like, Steve, if you're not going to play him at all, you need to tell me that. I need to know that, because we can't go forward like that. I either need to replace him or we need to keep him, but we can only keep him if you're going to play him. If you're not going to play him and you know there's a chance that you may not play him at all like you've done this playoffs, that should have been a conversation that was had in January.
Well, and
and should have led to a trade in February.
Well, and think of just the trust in doing the right thing to my career damage that has been done with Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga in his mind is already off the Golden State Warriors, don't you think? I mean, he's got to want out of here. And I don't blame him. I will also say this. There are a lot of reasons why the Warriors looked at Kuminga and said, not a fit. I get it. Who they are and what they do and how they operate. You know what I really think, Larry, was part and parcel of that win last night? And I hate to say this because it's not like I disliked the player, but I do not like the way he gets rolled out. I do not like the way Gary Payton II not being available last night helped the Warriors win that game. I really believe that.
Well, I mean, you can't have
him a power forward or something like.
You can't have GP2 outscoring Buddy Hield. If GP2 outscores Buddy Hield, if your defensive guard outscores your offensive guard needs to be benched. Well, and instead of benching him, they played him, and they were forced to play him. And now Steve looks like a genius.
I think that
now Buddy Hield's. Buddy Hield is going to bring gravity in the next round as a perimeter player. Watch game 1 and game 2. Because of his high profile game 7, Minnesota's gonna, they're gonna follow Buddy around a little bit. He's going to draw attention. So that's a good thing for the rest of the team.
The Warriors have 2 players who, within the first 4 minutes, you know what kind of game they're going to have. Yet Steve doesn't use information in real time being returned to him as like, should I pull the cord here on this guy? Should I just pull the ripcord here and go in another direction? I know whether or not Buddy Hield is going to have a good game within 5 minutes. And I can say the same thing about the first 4 or 5 minutes of any time Gary Payton II comes in the game. If Gary Payton II checks into a game and you still don't see him, get him off the floor. He's useless. Buddy Hield, if he's not hitting one of his first 3 3-point attempts, get him off the court. He's basically useless. Buddy went incendiary from downtown last night. One of the best Game 7 3-point shooting performances in recorded NBA history. He was awesome. Everything that they signed him to be, he was last night. If he can do that again in multiple games against Minnesota, guess what? They can beat the Timberwolves. They can. I don't think that they will, but they can. And Buddy, look, man, he saved Game 4. He saved Game 7. Buddy gets a lot of, up and down.
Buddy's a train wreck when the shots aren't falling.
Thank you. There you go. Everything I just tried to say, what he just said.
Yeah. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's a guy that, Kings fans after a number of games this year sent notes to me saying, Krug, this is what Buddy is. You know what I mean? This is why we don't like Buddy, because this is what Buddy was in Sacramento. And I get it. I understand it. But the Warriors went after him because he had that one trait. He can flat out shoot the ball. And it was looking like it was futile until Game 7, I mean, Buddy was looking kind of bad there.
Big Game 4.
Yeah, but I mean, in Game 6, he looked bad.
Score. Yeah. Here, I got a note here on Buddy Hield. This is kind of interesting. Hield also scored. Okay, so his 6 3-pointers in the first half set a Game 7 record. His 9 threes matched Dante DiVincenzo for the most threes ever made in a Game 7 history. And Buddy Hield also scored the most points after going scoreless in his prior game in NBA postseason history, according to ESPN Stats and Research. He went from nunca, 0 points in Game 6 to 33-7.
The guy made 200 threes this year. I mean, he's an amazing perimeter shooter. He always has been, going back to Oklahoma. And his shot selection has just been horrible at times, horrible. But, man, the Warriors needed him. I mean, I knew the Warriors were going to win that game at halftime just because the Warriors got 22 from Buddy in the first half. Well, Steph gave him nothing. Steph gave him 1 3-point shot, and they were able to be leading at halftime, all because Buddy. So you knew,
when the Warriors
Steph was going to wake up in the second half, and sure enough, he did.
You know, when I knew the Warriors were like, oh, they got it tonight, is when Buddy hit that like 40-something footer at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, everything the Warriors need to happen is kind of happening. They're playing great defense. Look, when the Warriors in the same game play great defense and hit their threes, they can win a lot of those games.
Yeah, and also Sengun. I mean, Jesus, how many times did Sengun? He came up so small. Sengun is a great talent, but I'll tell you, I coached basketball for a while. Sengun's game makes me crazy. His game could be so much better than it is if he would just use the glass. He doesn't want to use the glass. And also this guy spins wildly into nothing. I mean, he's going to be a much better player in 2 years, 3 years than he is right now. Right now, he was spinning left and right. He had no idea where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do. I'll tell you this: the NBA has lost their way when it comes to traveling as well. My God. Steph had a terrible travel on one of them.
It's allowed now.
The traveling is so. It's like, dude, can you guys not count to 2? I mean, you get 2 steps, not 4. They're giving 4 and 5 steps now.
Well, the gather
the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, the gather step is allowed to be a straight up like hopscotch.
It's like a triple jump. I feel like I'm watching a triple jump.
Yeah.
It's so bogus. And it's like, dude, it's so sloppy. It's so bad. I mean, it's bad. It's not like people be like, oh, you don't want to do it because you'll somehow disrupt the best players in the world. No, let the best players in the world, adapt like every other player, adapt. You don't get 4 steps. I mean, this whole, like, you get 2 steps and then you get 2 more steps.
Look,
what's that?
If there is no conference in America that is more dedicated to keeping the proper rules of not traveling on the books than the Big Ten Conference. If you took a handful of NBA players right now and put them in the Big Ten Conference, they wouldn't be able to play. They'd be called for travel. Look, Steph is guilty of this too. Steph Curry
did it yesterday.
He shuffles his feet. He double dribbles. He gets away with it all. It's the only thing that Steph gets to get away with, I guess, because, man,
LeBron,
right?
I mean, LeBron will get like 2 steps and then a hop and then a 2-foot jump. It's like, what? No, that's not. I mean, it's so sloppy. I mean, it's weird too. It's like the best players in the world can be the worst players in the world in some ways.
Held to lower standards.
Yeah, I mean, so what are we now going to play a baseball game where balls hit down the left field line and right field line that are foul or fair in the majors because it's close? I mean, what are we doing? It's the most ridiculous thing of all time. It's like NBA officials, and it's hilarious because these NBA mouthpiece announcers will literally they'll trip over their dick telling you in the broadcast that these are the best officials in the world. Only we have tons of visual evidence that they're the worst officials in the world.
Well,
I mean, the NBA basketball is officiated in the NBA worse than basketball is officiated in every other league that basketball is played. I mean, that's the fact. I don't care if these guys know more about the sport. If you're making the wrong calls and you're allowing sloppy footwork because they're stars,
well, I'll say
you're
this,
considered
Larry.
the best. That's the best
It's
official in the world.
it is really hard to make the decisions between block and charge, 50-50s, swallow the whistle plays, contact down low, huge bodies moving at incredible speed, the verticality of it all, contact below the waist while everyone's looking above the waist. It's really, really hard. Traveling, though, should be the easiest thing to call. That should be the easiest. Traveling should be as easy to call as false starts in the NFL.
Well, I mean, there's also this one too, and it's hard for me to say it. It's like more, I'd have to show you. But that when you're on the block and you dribble, and then you palm, and you dribble, and you palm, and you dribble, and you palm. I mean, my God, what the heck is that? Call that. I mean, I can't watch that anymore. I can't watch a guy pound the dribble and put his hand under the ball. Pound the dribble, put his hand under the ball. It's like, dude, it's a fucking carry. I mean, call it. I mean, call the carry, call the walking. I mean, the league will adapt and it will all be better off for it. It's baffling to watch it. It's bad. It's really bad. It's like, it would be like if there was a call in college football that you just don't see in the pros and they just arbitrarily don't call it in the pros, but it's still guys are doing it. It's like that. I don't get why. I don't get the advantage of not calling walking. It's like you're penalizing the entire league. The whole thing, the whole product is drops in quality if you can't officiate the game correctly. I don't know. Maybe nobody else cares about that. But to me, when I watch some of these NBA, here's the other one. Didn't it used to be a rule that you couldn't take a step into the lane in the middle of the free throw? Now they don't call that.
Oh, lane violations? Yeah, you're not. Yeah, lane violations.
Don't call lane violations hardly ever anymore. And when they do, it's like, they're like everybody's in the lane. Like there's three guys all in the lane.
Right, the head coach is in the lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
All right, what else we got? What else we got here?
What else do we got? Oh, there's kind of an interesting note, I thought, in Albert Breer's article on Mikael Williams. And it's interesting because this is from Albert Breer. He says, once they got into the draft process and involved their coaches, things only ramped up on the San Francisco affection for Mikael Williams. He says, defensive line coach Chris Kasarik, after watching him, called Williams the best edge setter in college football. When Lynch and Kyle Shanahan sat him down on his 30 visit and asked him, third down in the Super Bowl, where do you want us to line you up? His answer was over the guard, illustrating his versatility and the tough guy nature to his game, apparent in how he played through injury. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It sounds like, that is one of the things they love about Mikael Williams is that not only is he scheme versatile, but he's in a defensive line world where, man, you've got odd shaped rushers and, ends that are lined up at tackles that are lined up at ends, all kinds of stunning games. In some ways, this guy seems like almost the perfect piece if you like that kind of football. If you want to play games up front, if you want to play stunting and twisting games, if you want to potentially go with an all defensive end, third down pass rush alignment, if it seems like Mikael Williams, I think, has some added value in that he can play basically any spot on the line. You want him to be the three technique, he can do it.
Think of him as Eric Armstead.
Yeah.
He's
an
new
undersized
Eric,
Eric Armstead.
he's new Eric Armstead. And undersized is still a huge human being, by the way. He might be a little shorter than Eric, but he's a load.
Yeah.
Let's get back to some supers here. May I?
Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
You want to dial them up, or
Yeah,
you want?
I can do it. I can do it. Here we go. We started with the ruckus. Let's see, paying Purdy. Okay, we got that. Cy was crashing out.
Fuji Simeon here.
Okay. Fuji Simeon says Niners need to get that McNeese State team manager who was featured during March Madness and signed an NIL deal. Should hold the boombox for the team now.
Yeah, that was. He's qualified. He's qualified.
MSQ, rank your 3 sports teams based on how much you support them. I'd probably have to go Niners, Giants, Warriors.
I'd say it's Hoosiers, Warriors.
Hoosiers anything or Hoosiers hoops?
No, Hoosiers football and basketball. That's I don't care. Like Indiana's got this great soccer program. You won't hear me say a word about it. I don't care. It's all about football and basketball. The fact that I can actually say football now when I'm talking about Indiana means I'm living in a whole new world. I'm really enjoying it. I'm ready for a big step back and dose of reality, but we'll find out. Honestly, it's like Hoosiers, and then I get caught up in basketball, and I love, the Warriors gave me one of the greatest treats I've ever had in my life, giving me a front row seat to a truly historically significant basketball team. Look, when, I work here in San Francisco, so obviously Giants, Niners, do anything, it's a big, big, big deal, but I'm less of a fan than ever before, and I'm just more interested in everything. I don't know. I root for the Hoosiers. I root for the Hoosiers.
I hear you.
The Hoosiers make me scream in my living room. I don't know if any other team makes me scream in my living room.
Do you feel funny, though, because you're screaming about somebody who's probably tapping a keg like the night before? I mean, you're screaming about somebody who's in college.
I know. I know. Oh, look, I mean,
that always amazed me. I can never get that super involved. When at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, this guy, was probably,
well, and it's
whatever. I mean, this guy was at the Purdy house last night twisting a J. I'm really going to lose my mind over this.
The thing that drives me nuts is college. It didn't give you a long relationship, but you had like a 4-year relationship with a player. Look, the Indiana Hoosiers roster right now, their basketball team is made up of dudes that have, so many of them transferred in, so many players have transferred out. I have no idea who these guys are. So maybe NIL is going to separate my personal knowledge and like my favorite thing about Trace Jackson Davis is I saw him go from a freshman to one of the best players in the history of IU basketball. There's very little opportunity for me to ever watch that again. That's not going to really happen again.
Be nice if we got a few minutes with the Warriors.
You know what? Dunk the basketballs. Quit smoking your layups, and you might. I look at it this way. Nobody should be complaining more about Trace's lack of minutes than me, but you don't hear me complaining. Trace has earned the spot on the bench that he's enjoying. I
like the 2-hand shiver he had the other day on who'd he push off?
Oh, Sengun.
Sengun, yeah. Sengun, by the way, had a horrible night last night, man. Sengun has got great moves, but he has no idea what he's doing. He's just twisting and turning, and
right.
God, I mean, he threw up about in this series alone. This guy threw up some of the most pathetic shots I've ever seen. He's just twisting, turning, his back's to the basket, and he's just gonna.
He was 9 of 23. 9 of 23, with most of those shots coming from within 5 feet of the rim.
But Damon, it's not just that he's missing. He's not even looking at the bucket when he's throwing it up there. He's just kind of like throwing it up, hoping it's going to roll off the rim and just kind of find its way. It's like, Sengun, you've got awesome footwork, but you're so far away from being Kevin McHale. I've heard people, I myself have described him as a Kevin McHale type guy because he's got the McHale kind of low post, moves and footwork. But McHale was an absolute, his footwork was like
footwork and touch.
You're talking about he would make Sengun look like just an absolute loser.
Well,
Kevin McHale, you think Sengun's good. Sengun is a weak facsimile of what McHale was. McHale didn't just turn endlessly and blindly and just, now my back's to the bucket. I'll just kind of push it up and hope. Right. No. This guy had moves. This guy had drop steps. This guy had
but when
finger rolls and all
was McHale still playing in Minnesota at the age of 22? And that's the thing. Sengun is 22.
I know. He's young.
It's hard for young big men to have an awful lot of success early on in their careers unless you're Shaquille O'Neal and you're just physically overwhelming. But I wish
McHale were still in the league. Because I wish people could see how incredibly dominant he was on the low block.
Well, you don't know what post moves are because they really don't exist in this league the way that they used to. Hakeem Olajuwon in the low post was art. And Kevin McHale was the same thing, except Kevin McHale did it with the narrowest shoulders you've ever seen in your life.
There were guys that weren't even good, really. James Edwards was a piece of work down low. Joe Barry Carroll, for Warrior fans, was an unbelievable 25-point-a-night scorer on the low block with moves.
Rick Smith, the Duncan.
Zach Randolph. Where have you gone, Zach Randolph? It's amazing. And Sengun is the best of them right now. But his footwork is like I feel like I'm watching like a sixth grader compared to McHale.
You got a whole bunch of kids who just took the Warriors to a Game 7 after a really good year. I will bet on the future of the Houston Rockets. I really like Jalen Green, although he is doing his James Harden not showing up in Game 7 impression last night. But let me tell you, the Rockets' future, and even though I think Udoka is not a good guy, he might sleep with your wife. That's the right tough-minded head coach for that young team. I like the Rockets' future.
They can't score. I'll say this about
they need a shooter. They need Kevin Durant.
Yeah, they need Durant. Van Vliet.
What a great
at one point just yells at Sengun, "Wake the fuck up!" That was amazing. Fuji Simeon says, "Everything okay, Larry? You seem down. You seem exhausted." No, I've been battling a little bit of a cold since the draft. So for whatever reason, I got this cold that my kids had, and I got it during the draft week, but I think my excitement for the draft kind of held it off. So it didn't hit me until after the draft, and then my voice was just gone for like 2 or 3 days, and it was weird. It was like this cold that wasn't that bad up front, but just lingered with a cough, and I'm sneezing and wheezing. So I've been a little bit under the weather with this cold, but no, I'm not. In fact, I'll be streaming today at 11 and a half hour with the great Sam Batesh. I'll be hosting an interview later today on my channel with the great Brian Baldinger. So I got a lot of good things coming up on the channel. It'll be a busy week this week for, I'll be down in Santa Clara, I believe maybe Thursday and Friday or Friday and Saturday for rookie minicamp. So no, I'm feeling great. Thank you for asking. Feeling great, not down, not exhausted. I did do a stream after I went to Damon's Guardsman dinner last week where I may have been a little drunk. in the stream just because it was I had been drinking a little bit that night. And so if I seemed a little down that night, maybe that was it. I was maybe a little wasted. As far as
America.
Yeah, there you go. But I feel good. I'm not, hopefully I look okay, but I feel fine. And I'm not down. I'm not exhausted. I'm a little pissed that the Niners cheaped out as in the undrafted market, because I really thought there was opportunity in this particular draft class to have almost an entire second draft, if they had so chosen to go that direction. But they're obviously, Jed has put real tight financial constraints on them for whatever reason. So I think that's stupid, and I'll say that. But other than that, I'm feeling good and excited for a busy week. So, but thank you, Fuji. Joseph Ernberg says, "Angry Larry is the best Larry. Love you guys." I don't know if I was being angry, but Cy was being angry last night. MSQ, what if Purdy had the Eagles O-line and Hurts had the Niners O-line? Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I really see Brock Purdy as very similar to Jalen Hurts. I think Brock Purdy's a better talent than Jalen Hurts, to be completely honest. But I think they're very comparable. I think they are very comparable.
The offensive line between the two players probably does more to affect the running game than the passing game, to be totally honest with you.
I'll say this. I would much rather have Lane Johnson and Mailata than Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz. No question in my mind. Mark's Maine says, weird time where all the teams think they're on the uptick because of the draft, but historically, we know that can't be true. Who on the 49ers schedule do you think had a poor draft? That's a good question. Well, we don't know the schedule. Do we even know? Where would I even go to see the list of who they're playing?
Hold on.
Let me see.
I got it.
See if you can find who they're playing, and I could do a quick perusal of what they did in the draft.
Your opponent's set for the 2025
non-division
season. At home, they will be taking on the Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, Panthers, Jaguars, Titans, and Chicago Bears.
Falcons, Panthers, Bears, and who?
Titans, Jaguars.
Well, I mean, okay, so I thought the Titans obviously had I wouldn't say it a bad draft, but they're going to go with a rookie quarterback.
Well, their draft is what is Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is a hell of a year, they had a great draft.
So I would say Cam Ward, the fact that you're going to play Cam Ward, that's a good one. That's an advantage 49ers. Atlanta got some pass rushers. They got two really fast edge rushers. So I think that's going to make their defense a little bit better. Plus you got Michael Penix in year 2. So I think Atlanta had a pretty good draft.
Browns, Texans, Colts, Saints, Giants, Buccaneers.
Buccaneers had a very good draft. I thought the Buccaneers had a very good draft, by the way. Buccaneers had a tremendous draft. If you look at what the Buccaneers did in this draft, they started it off with Egbuka from Ohio State, and that he is a tremendous talent and very, very polished. So you have, you got a very polished receiver that you're adding to already a great receiving room that has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So you just added Egbuka. Then they got Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. So they got two really good corners. They added Tez Johnson from Oregon in the 7th round, and they got a couple good defensive ends in David Walker and Elijah Roberts. So I think Tampa could be really tough.
Did the Cleveland Browns do enough in the draft? I mean,
no. They got Mason Graham.
We'll see. It really depends on, if Judkins turns into their starting running back, then it's a better draft. If they really get snaps out of Shadour this year, it'll be a better draft. They
also have Dylan Gabriel. They also have Joe Flacco
before Shadour. I don't get it. Like their draft doesn't make sense on paper to me.
Well, it's interesting. They got, I think, some really good players. I mean, they got Mason Graham. Then they got Carson Schlesinger from UCLA. They got Judkins, Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, and then they took Dylan Gabriel and Shadour Sanders. I thought the only thing that didn't make sense were the quarterback picks, because I'm not a Dylan Gabriel fan. He's tiny. He's been in college forever, and I'm not a Shadour fan. So I think they wasted 2 draft picks on quarterbacks that neither is going to be good.
Well, so what's really funny is that they were in position to draft Travis Hunter, and they end up trading out of that only to get Shadour Sanders in the 5th round.
Which is okay, because it is. They did get Jacksonville's 1st round pick next year. in addition. So it's not like they traded back and they got Mason Graham and they got a first round pick next year. But yeah, I mean, to me, Mason Graham is a great college defensive tackle who's got questions in the NFL. And you had the most dominant perimeter dynamo in a guy who could play receiver or corner, and you pass that up. I mean, that seems odd to me. I mean, especially since, but there's some weird things about Hunter as well. I mean, he doesn't want to play in the NFL unless he can play both ways. Okay. Realistically, you're going to play 150 snaps a game. I mean, that's not realistic. So I would say, and then the interesting thing to me, Damon, is that I think it's much more, it fits way better to play full-time on defense and play part-time on offense.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to try to do it the opposite. They're going to try to play him full-time on offense and part-time on defense. And I think that's not necessary. I mean, if you're going to go with a player like Travis Hunter, play him full-time on defense and use him in packages on offense. That seems like a no-brainer, but the Browns want to do it the other way around. So I don't know. I mean, the Jaguars want to do it the other way around. So I don't know if I like that decision from Jacksonville.
We'll see.
That seems like it could be a problem. That seems like it could be something that doesn't necessarily work out.
What else we got?
All right. What else? We got that one. We got this one. Fuji Simeon, love the post-game show with Marty and Glenn. Oh, yeah, I did a post-game show on Sunday with Marty Lurie and Glenn Kuiper. MSQ said, which sport has the best officiating? Oh, it's definitely baseball. Baseball.
Baseball. NHL.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that, but I couldn't speak to that. But as far as football, basketball, baseball, no doubt. Football, they're part-time. Basketball, they're on the take. They've got relationships with the players. They fuck up a call, and then they spend the rest of the night trading back and forth on makeup calls. The baseball umps easily are the best. Fuji Simeon, Indiana has a great diving program.
That's right.
IU reps the Olympics.
Yes. We'll see.
Joseph Ernberg. Larry, do you get excitable during Niner games? I do.
Cheering in the press box. No cheering in the press box, though. Larry.
I do get excited, though. Not really excited. Like in the playoffs, I get really excited. But it is tough because I am in the press box, and I won't cheer, but I will sometimes if I see especially if I see a play happening, unfolding, like the blockers ahead of time, I'll drop one of these, Damon. I'll drop two hands up in the air, and I've gotten some stank eye in the press box from just doing that.
Yeah. Like bastion of professionalism that is a modern press box.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bunch of jerk-offs.
You get people that are sitting there. I will not take shoes from George Kittle. But you know what? I'm going to have my 7th latte and a 4th hot dog, and I haven't paid for any of it.
Well, I sit here and watch direct TV instead of the game. But
I have standards. I live by a code. Yes, I'll have more free gummy bears. Yes, I will. Lucas Shea Houston Jr. Shout out to Adamas with 2 homers and a banger off the wall yesterday. Almost 3 bombs.
Nowhere to go but up for him so far. So, yeah, good. Get hot.
Christopher Shin. Rockets do nothing with Dylan Brooks. MSQ, can you give me positive qualities of Sanders that you like?
Colonel Sanders, I love the 11 herbs and spices, extra crispy. Is that the guy we're talking about?
I like the suit. I mean, it was a good looking suit. Positive qualities about who? About Shadour Sanders?
The most positive quality, I would say, is he has the DNA of a Hall of Fame football player in him. Let's see what he learns. Let's see how he goes about now handling his professional career, how much he dives into film. Did you see there was some video where Tom Brady, I guess, was on a conference call with Dion and Shadour. And Tom Brady leans in and he says, you don't need to worry about a Rolls Royce. You need to worry about your film room. Like, I guess Dion asked Tom, he's like, how much should my son be worried about his Rolls Royce? And Tom was like, not at all. You don't need a Rolls Royce. You need film. And it was pretty good.
Yeah, I would say, but the question was, what does Shadour do well? What do I like about Shadour? I not much. I don't like much about him. I really don't. I don't think he's got much of an arm. He doesn't have much stature. He doesn't run well. He doesn't read coverage. His high completion percentage is a total product of just the terrible system that he was in. Where he just
and you know what?
I
think his protection of his completion percentage led to him taking many more sacks. He had 30 opportunities to throw the ball away, but he never did. He took the sack to, I think, help bake in his completion percentage.
Right. So I don't like Shadour. I don't think Shadour's a good quarterback. I think Mel Kiper's crazy to compare him to Joe Montana. I mean, really? Joe Montana?
It's
Come on, Mel.
It's bonkers.
Mel blew that one, and then he blew this draft trying to justify it. So it's like, it's one thing to want to be, I mean, in all these people, shame on all of these people who, just endlessly kiss ass to Deion Sanders because of some power they interpret that he has. And it's like, shame on Deion Sanders. It's like, you're the reason your son fell to the 5th round. You told everybody you wanted to coach him. That was a very self-serving comment that did not in any way make him more attractive to teams. It made him less attractive to teams. Why would anybody want to draft a player as the head coach knowing that his dad wants to coach him? So that was number one. Number two, they refused to, this whole narrative of like, we only want to play here, we don't want to play there. That totally backfired. It was stupid as hell. Almost all of the teams that you claimed you didn't want to play for were the teams that were going to draft you.
And
so
by
that
the way, the single best explanation of the fall of Shadour on draft day, somebody said, I think it was maybe Todd McShay, who said the number one problem was that he treated his interviews as if they were recruiting trips. And he basically walked into these NFL
What do
rooms.
You got for me?
Right. Yeah. What can you do for me and the legendary brand? Sell me on wanting to come play for you, other than he's taking this as the biggest job interview of his entire life.
Well, and then by the way, here's a little tester. Go into the next job interview you do, and instead of talking about their culture and what you can do for their company, talk about your brand, and let's see if you get the job. I will bet you anything that any job interview where you show more interest in your brand than the company that you're going to go work for, you're not getting that job. You are not getting that job. The New York Giants, according to the reports I read, had several things that they sent him that were wrong about certain plays, and they were looking for him to pick it apart, and he didn't even spend the time to look at it at all. And once they realized he didn't spend the time to look at it at all, they were just like, get out of here.
They called him out on it, and he got angry about that.
Right. He got angry about it. He's like, what can you do for me? So, and this backwards reality that people are in. Well, you know what? Some of these teams have been bad for a long time. So what? Who the hell is Shadour Sanders? He did nothing at Colorado. And now he's got no arm. He's small. He's slow. I mean, are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. Some small, slow guy with a rag arm and a celebrity dad who walks in and tries to dictate everything suddenly got backhanded by the NFL. I mean, it's awesome. He got what he deserved. And this idea that he's going to make it all right now, no, he's not. There's a reason they passed on him. These guys want to win more than they want anything. If they felt like this guy could help them win, they would have drafted him. They don't think he can help them win.
Or one of the best values in the history of the 5th round just got drafted by the Cleveland Browns in a few years from now. Shadour Sanders is one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. We do not know, but we're about to find out. So
I'll say this.
Fun part.
Yeah, I'll say this. I will make a prediction right now. There will be more quarterbacks that got drafted behind Shadour Sanders that become good NFL quarterbacks than quarterbacks that he will be superior than that he went behind. You know what I'm saying? People are like, oh, he went behind this guy. He went behind Cam Ward. He went behind Tyler Shuck. Forget those guys. You're not going to be better than any of those guys, most likely, and you're going to be worse than multiple guys that were taken behind you. I'll take Seth Hennigan. I'll take Riley Leonard. I'll take your guy, Curtis Rourke. I'll take several other guys over Deion's kid.
By the way, how do we get Shuck out of that last name? How?
Shuck. It's Shuck.
Just spell it Shuck then. Change your family's
name. By the
name.
way, what a good-looking family. Was that his family, or was that his girlfriend? I couldn't decide if that was his girlfriend, his sister, his mother, his aunt. I mean, there were so many beautiful people in that picture. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, it's a very good-looking Shuck family. Ben Diesel says, I think they should play Humphreys at right tackle and move McKivitz inside. What do y'all think? Humphreys barely played last year. When he did, he was injured. I would say if Humphreys can play at all, I don't think Humphreys is going to start over McKivitz.
Here's the thing. McKivitz is the best tackle until proven otherwise to start at right tackle. So don't be too eager to move him.
Yeah. MSQ. Shadur's ceiling is more Breeze than Joe Milton.
Than Joe Montana.
Than Joe Montana. Both Texas born.
Look. So, you don't get off the hook by comparing him to another Hall of Famer. Drew Brees left the NFL, I think, with more passing yards than anyone has ever thrown for ever. I mean, so come on, let's dial that back a little, please.
Seriously. I did a radio show with a guy who went off on Drew Brees because Drew Brees said he loved America. That's at that point I'd had enough. Fuji Simeon says Shadour got his number retired at Colorado. WTF.
Yeah.
Do you remember that when we were so backwards that people were going after Drew Brees because he said he loved America? Do you remember that? Or he was proud to be an American? Remember that?
I don't remember that. I don't
remember that. It was right around the George Floyd period in the middle of the pandemic. Drew Brees came out and said he was proud to be an American or proud of the flag or something like that. And it was like, oh my God, this guy. And, here's a guy that actually took his own freaking money and built up New Orleans post Hurricane Katrina. And yet all these people that never did anything for the city of New Orleans were saying that Drew Brees was this and Drew Brees was that. None of these people lifted a finger to do anything for New Orleans.
Love him down in New Orleans. They love him.
New Orleans. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks to our good friends at Mancini's Sleep World. Also, thanks to Claudaddy Arcades and LearnKey Upskill Academy. The links are in the description for all of my sponsors. And thanks to all of them.
Get yourself to Ike's if you're thinking about lunch this week. If you're the person who orders lunch for your office, check out Ike's Catering. You'll be happy that you did. And the next time you need a good Guinness pulled for you, go to the Dubliner, West Portal. There you go. Larry, thanks very much. Everybody like and subscribe all the way around on both channels, if you would, please. And we'll be back with another Wake Up on Friday. We'll have
I'll be going live in 10 minutes with Sam Batesh. Are you going live in 10 minutes today?
I am going live with Sam Batesh. We're going to start talking some Warriors and Game 7.
No. I'm going live with Sam Batesh. You're going live not with Sam Batesh.
I'm not going live with Sam. Is usually on with me on Thursdays. So okay. Sam will be coming back. I can tell you that Guy Haberman and I believe, will be live tomorrow at 11. If Cyrus comes down out of his crazy man perch, we'll do something on Wednesday, I believe, together. And we'll see how the rest of the week goes. I've got some calls out to a few folks and looking forward to it being a really fun week. So,
all righty.
returned. Jillian's back in the house. So let's go, baby.
I'll be back in 9 minutes with the great Sam Batesh. And then later on today, Brian Baldinger is going to stop by. We're probably not going to release that until tomorrow on the channel. So look for that on Tuesday. We'll gladly pay you on Tuesday with the Brian Baldinger.
Today?
Yeah. I will gladly pay you on Tuesday. Anyway, thanks for Damon. I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.